What is up, guys? I made a video yesterday about my collard greens, my tree collards, and that impressive tree-like thing in front of you is a purple tree collard. And I wanted to just use this little patch of garden to feature a few different Brassica family options that you may want to consider based on the amount of space you have for growing food in an urban environment and in a climate at least comparable to mine, or that's amenable to growing some brassicas. And they're a pretty hardy plant, so that gives a lot of variability for you guys. In this little plot, I have, you can see, lacinato kale, and like I said, the purple tree collard. There's a little Brussels sprout tower that I'm slowly pulling leaves off, and that is redirecting energy into growing those Brussels for me. Yay! I'm excited. I have not eaten one yet from my garden, but some of those are getting to the size where I really could, so that's exciting to see. It's getting a little more sun lately. And then the edge plant here is a green tree collard. They have a more of a bush growing variety than the purple ones. You can see through the stakes here. I think you can see that it's actually bifurcating at the base into a few different branches. This one here is its sibling plant. Both of these were grown from cuttings from Project Tree Collard in Richmond, California. Speaking of more, there's some more Brassica. That's kohlrabi, but that's more of just a decorative plant at this point. It's got a bunch of aphids. It's been in the yard a long time. I think it has a pretty massive root, but I'm not really planning on eating it anymore. I just leave it here for the habitat, and it's pretty. But anyway, I just wanted you to really see the footprint of each of these plants relative to each other and their production capacity. So here, this plant looks bigger than the other one because it's really spreading out for some sun. It's getting more sun here. But it is definitely the younger or the more runted sibling between the two green collards. But they both have more of a bushing variety. They stay lower to the ground. Sorry for the stakes in your way. They stay lower to the ground, but they will spread out. They will really start taking up a little more width, even though they're lower. And then the tree collards, as you can see, like this tree collard is less than a year old. This one is one I grew from as a seedling, and then I'll just show you really quickly. So it's from a very small seedling that I got from Annie's Annuals, also in Richmond. I think Richmond is the home of tree collards, which is very cool. Now, keep in mind, it's midday. It's not particularly hot, but they're getting some intense sun. So the leaves are looking kind of wilted and sad, but they are very vibrant, healthy plants. They're just kind of a little faded in the sun. But and actually, I just want you to also see, there's no tension in these straps. It's very loose. It looks like it's leaning really hard on those, but it's actually not. It's holding itself up. This is really just a catch in case we get extra strong winds, because I just don't want them to get snapped over. And it has been strangely windy. And I think you can see my garden gets to be kind of like a wind tunnel through here. The wind will whip over from the west side over that fence, so that's why. But these I grew from, these are red tree collards or purple tree collards I grew from cuttings, and I just want you to see they are less than a year old, and they are already extremely healthy, productive plants, thriving in the San Francisco Bay Area, not getting a tremendous amount of sun. Today's an uncharacteristically sunny February day, but they are awesome. Like, I love using these leaves as wraps, but they're also extremely versatile for stir frying or salading or whatever you want to do with your leafy greens. Side by side taste test, I would probably say that even the most tender the young and tender of the purple tree collard leaves are a little bit tougher than the green tree collard. The green tree collard leaves are a little bit closer to like a soft green cabbage. Or while I'm here, they have a little bit softer texture, kind of like cauliflower greens, which there's not great light for at this exact moment, but cauliflower greens are delicious. So even if your cauliflower is bolt like mine, some of them are heading, and I got great cauliflower heads over the summer, but these bolted for whatever reason. But the leaves are really delicious. They're really awesome. And of course I could cut those bolts and have the plant redirect some energy into heading something for me, but I'm perfectly happy to have the flowers and the leaves, and I'll eat the stalk, and it's fine. You can see some of these aren't bolting so dramatically, and I'll hopefully get a couple heads, but also look at those beautiful leaves. So anyway, what I want to say is they have a softer texture. Another comparison, it's not a great moment to show you this because they look a little sad in the sun, but here's beautiful green, just red heading green cabbage. Again, this looks sad because it's wilted, but softer texture, right? And then of course you've probably tried lacinato kale, and again, one of the things I'm looking at is the footprint of the plant. How high is the plant going to grow? How much square footage is it going to take up? And what's the density of leaves that I'm going to harvest? So just to give you your comparison, you can kind of do the scaling for yourself. I would say each of these could probably be grown in something like a wine barrel as well. You know, they might not be as happy, but they don't need much more than that type of surface to be pretty healthy. You could probably get a pretty decent mileage out of a wine barrel for even one of these purple tree collards. Final thing I was going to say about the purple ones that you're able to see here is they too, and I think you saw earlier, they will bifurcate their base stem. And what happens is at first they grow like this more immature stem. It'll show you that it's growing sort of individual leaves, individual leaves that get perfectly awesome to eat. And then from each leaf node, I think you can see, it'll shoot out more productive leaves. Those are ones that I've cut and eaten. And I took my cue to cut and eat them when I saw that the new leaf was growing and the plant had plenty of mature leaf to continue to get sun and photosynthesize and grow, but I was relieving it to be able to redivert energy into that little leaf, the same way we trim leaves on the Brussels sprouts so that they can redivert energy into growing their Brussels. But what I wanted to show you is that little by little, as the plant matures, you get this crazy explosion of more density and more leaf growth. So out of each one of the leaf nodes, you stop getting just a single leaf and you get multiple leaves and you get multiple branches. So that's just to give an example. I mean, I've only had this plant for less than a year. There's a pretty good example of how it just explodes, the productivity level explodes. So if you could only have one and you wanted max output, I would go with purple tree collards or green tree collards. But just putting that out there. And again, if you are not able to find them in your neighborhood, Project Tree Collard will ship you cuttings or seeds. They sometimes have seedlings, but I grew these from cuttings and it was a little bit of a slow process. But I will be honest with you, my plants that are growing from cuttings are really impressing me. Like one of these leaves has to come off, it's a little nasty, but honestly, the leaves that I think are coming up from cuttings are healthier. This plant is more mature and it's bigger, but I honestly think that these plants ultimately are more robust plants. I just get that feeling because I like the quality of the leaves a little better. Now maybe once this plant starts bifurcating its stems more like the other one that's larger, maybe they will kind of change their quality a little bit, but these leaves are just more tender to me. They're more, they just seem healthier. It's kind of subtle, but I feel like the ones I got from Project Tree Collard cuttings ultimately have turned out to be, they're clones, I guess, of their adult plant, and they've been awesome. So if you're gonna look for tree collards, hit them up. Tell them I sent you.